While I was undergoing emergency cardiac surgery, my husband Marcus sold our family estate for $37 million and transferred the proceeds to accounts I had never seen before. What he did not know was that my great-grandmother's trust fund, worth $900 million, had been activated the day before my surgery, and I was about to demonstrate that systematic preparation always defeats opportunistic betrayal. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Victoria Blackwood, and 6 months ago, I believed I was living the culmination of the American dream. At 42 years old, I had built a successful architectural restoration firm specializing in historic properties, owned a magnificent 19th-century estate in Savannah, Georgia, and was married to a man I trusted completely with every aspect of our shared financial future. The irony that would later become apparent was that while I spent my professional life restoring buildings that had withstood centuries of challenges, I had failed to recognize that my own foundation was being systematically undermined by the person closest to me. The Blackwood estate represented more than just our family residence. The 20-acre property featured a meticulously restored antebellum mansion that had been in continuous occupation since 1856, complete, with original architectural details that made it one of Savannah's most photographed and historically significant private residences. I had spent 8 years and nearly $4 million of my own earnings restoring every detail to museum-quality standards, from the hand-carved crown molding to the original heart pine flooring that required specialized craftsmen to repair properly. Marcus Ashford entered my life during the most successful period of my career, when my restoration firm was completing high-profile projects throughout the Southeast, and my professional reputation was attracting international attention. He possessed the sophisticated charm and cultural knowledge that complemented my technical expertise, understanding architectural history and period design elements with an appreciation that seemed to match my own passion for preserving historical integrity. Our courtship developed around shared visits to architectural sites, antique auctions, and cultural events where his knowledge and enthusiasm appeared to reflect genuine appreciation for the work that defined my professional identity. What I failed to recognize during those early years was that Marcus approached our relationship with the same calculating assessment he applied to evaluating investment opportunities in his financial advisory practice. Where I saw romantic compatibility and shared intellectual interests, he was conducting systematic research into my business assets, family background, and financial potential. His apparent interest in my restoration projects was actually comprehensive evaluation of property values, project costs, and profit margins that would inform his long-term strategy for accessing and controlling the wealth I was generating through my professional expertise. The success of Blackwood Restoration Company had exceeded even my most optimistic projections when I established the firm 12 years earlier. What began as a small operation focused on residential historic preservation had evolved into a comprehensive enterprise managing major institutional projects including museum restorations, historic hotel renovations, and government building preservation contracts that required specialized expertise in period-appropriate materials and traditional construction techniques. The financial success of these projects had enabled me to acquire and restore my own historic property while building substantial personal wealth that provided security and independence I had never imagined possible. Marcus demonstrated remarkable understanding of my business operations and financial management strategies, offering insights and suggestions that initially appeared to reflect supportive partnership and shared investment in our mutual success. His background in financial advisory services provided expertise in tax optimization, investment strategy, and wealth management that complemented my focus on operational excellence and project delivery. I welcomed his involvement in financial planning activities, grateful for professional guidance that allowed me to concentrate on the technical and creative aspects of restoration work that energized and fulfilled me. The integration of our financial lives proceeded gradually over the 3 years of our marriage, with Marcus assuming increasing responsibility for investment management, tax planning, and administrative coordination that supported both my business, operations, and our personal financial objectives. His systematic approach to financial organization impressed me with its thoroughness and attention to detail, particularly his insistence on comprehensive documentation and backup systems that ensured all important information was properly recorded and accessible. What I interpreted as professional competence and partnership was actually systematic preparation for the most calculated financial betrayal I would ever experience. Marcus had been methodically organizing our financial arrangements to provide himself with maximum access and control, while minimizing my awareness of the true scope of his authority over assets I had worked decades to accumulate. Every improvement in our financial organization was simultaneously an enhancement of his capability to manipulate and redirect resources without my knowledge or consent. The first indication that something fundamental was wrong emerged during what should have been a routine discussion about updating our estate planning documents. Marcus had been pressing for several months to establish new trust structures and investment arrangements that would optimize our tax position while providing additional flexibility for managing our combined assets. His proposals were professionally presented and appeared to offer genuine advantages, but something in his urgency and insistence on specific implementation timelines created uncomfortable questions about his underlying motivations. During our meeting with the estate planning attorney he had selected, I noticed that the proposed trust arrangements would provide Marcus with substantially greater authority over asset management decisions than I had understood from our preliminary discussions. When I raised questions about the specific language and decision-making protocols, Marcus responded with reassurance and explanations that seemed reasonable but did not entirely address my concerns about maintaining appropriate oversight and control. The attorney, Patricia Hensley, appeared uncomfortable with my questions and seemed more interested in expediting document execution than ensuring my complete understanding of the legal implications. Her responses to my concerns were professionally courteous but lacked the thoroughness and transparency I expected when making decisions about assets representing decades of professional achievement and financial planning. I decided to postpone the trust establishment until I could conduct independent research about the proposed arrangements and consult with my own legal advisor about the implications of the structural changes Marcus was recommending. This delay created the first visible tension in our marriage, with Marcus expressing frustration about what he characterized as unnecessary complications and delays that were preventing us from accessing significant tax advantages available through immediate implementation. His reaction to my request for additional time and independent consultation revealed an intensity and impatience that contrasted sharply with the supportive partnership he had demonstrated throughout our marriage. For the first time, I began to question whether Marcus viewed our financial planning as collaborative decision-making, or whether he expected my automatic agreement with his recommendations regardless of my own concerns or preferences. The seeds of doubt that emerged from this estate planning discussion would prove prophetic when circumstances forced me to confront the true scope of Marcus's systematic preparation for betraying the trust and partnership I believed defined our marriage. The man I had trusted with every aspect of our shared financial future had been positioning himself to exploit that trust in ways I could not have imagined possible from someone who claimed to love and support my success. The cardiovascular emergency that would expose Marcus's true intentions developed gradually over several weeks, beginning with what I initially dismissed as stress-related fatigue from managing multiple complex restoration projects simultaneously. The demanding schedule I maintained often required 12-hour days coordinating craftsmen, managing client communications, and ensuring quality standards that preserved my firm's reputation for excellence. Physical exhaustion seemed like a reasonable consequence of professional success, rather than a warning sign of serious medical complications. The symptoms escalated suddenly during a site inspection at a historic courthouse restoration project in Charleston, South Carolina. What began as chest discomfort and shortness of breath rapidly progressed to severe chest pain and cardiac rhythm irregularities that required immediate emergency transportation to the Medical University of South Carolina Cardiac Center. The emergency room evaluation revealed critical blockages in multiple coronary arteries that required immediate surgical intervention to prevent potentially fatal cardiac complications. Dr. Samuel Morrison, the cardiac surgeon who would perform my emergency procedure, explained that the severity of my condition required immediate triple bypass surgery, with an expected recovery period of several weeks before I could resume normal activities. The urgency of the situation meant that surgical scheduling and preparation would begin immediately, with the procedure scheduled for the following morning to minimize the risk of additional cardiac events before intervention could be completed. Marcus accompanied me throughout the emergency evaluation and pre-surgical preparation process, demonstrating what appeared to be appropriate concern and support during the most frightening medical crisis I had ever experienced. He asked detailed questions about the surgical procedure, recovery timeline, and post-operative care requirements while ensuring that my business operations would be properly managed during my absence from active involvement in ongoing projects. His apparent dedication to ensuring comprehensive preparation for my surgical procedure and recovery period seemed to reflect the supportive partnership I had always believed characterized our marriage. Marcus coordinated with my business manager to ensure that all active projects would continue without interruption, arranged for temporary management of our household affairs, and established communication protocols that would keep me informed about important developments during my recovery period. What I could not have suspected during those pre-surgical preparations was that Marcus had been planning this moment for months, waiting for circumstances that would provide him with both the opportunity and justification for implementing financial transactions that would transfer our most valuable assets to his exclusive control. My medical emergency represented the perfect combination of my physical incapacity and legitimate reasons for urgent financial action that would make his betrayal appear reasonable and necessary, rather than calculated theft. The evening before my surgery, Marcus brought me a thick folder of documents that he described as routine administrative paperwork, necessary for ensuring that our financial affairs would be properly managed during my recovery period. The documents included power of attorney authorizations, temporary asset management agreements, and insurance claim preparations that would enable him to handle all necessary business and personal financial transactions without requiring my direct involvement during the post-surgical recovery phase. My physical condition and medication effects made careful review of these documents extremely difficult, but Marcus assured me that they represented standard preparations that would simply formalize his existing authority to manage our shared financial affairs during my temporary incapacity. The urgent medical circumstances and my trust in his expertise and integrity led me to sign the authorization documents without the thorough analysis I would normally conduct before making decisions with significant financial implications. These signatures would provide Marcus with comprehensive legal authority to execute the most devastating financial betrayal of my life while I was unconscious and recovering from major cardiac surgery. The systematic preparation he had conducted over months of careful planning would culminate in asset transfers that were designed to leave me financially devastated and emotionally destroyed when I discovered the scope of his calculated deception. However, Marcus had made one critical miscalculation in his systematic preparation for betraying our marriage and destroying my financial security. His research into my family background and financial resources had been extensive but incomplete, missing the most significant element that would ultimately determine the outcome of his carefully planned theft. The Blackwood Family Trust, established by my great-grandmother Victoria Blackwood in 1923, had remained dormant for nearly a century while accumulating value through conservative investment strategies managed by a discreet private banking institution. The trust activation protocols, established decades before my birth, required specific circumstances that would demonstrate both financial need and personal character worthy of access to resources that had grown to nearly $900 million through 8 decades of careful investment management. My great-grandmother had designed the trust structure to provide support for family members who faced extraordinary challenges while demonstrating the resilience and integrity that she believed defined the Blackwood family character. The notification of trust activation arrived through secure courier delivery to my hospital room on the morning of my surgery, exactly 24 hours before Marcus would implement his plan to steal our family estate and liquidate our shared assets for his exclusive benefit. The timing represented either extraordinary coincidence or the kind of justice that emerges when systematic preparation meets authentic character, under circumstances that reveal the true nature of all participants. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The trust documentation included detailed instructions for accessing resources, legal frameworks for asset protection, and contact information for the private banking team that had been managing the trust investments while waiting for circumstances that would trigger activation protocols. Most importantly, the trust structure included comprehensive security measures designed to protect beneficiaries from exactly the kind of financial predation that Marcus was planning to implement while I was physically incapacitated. As I was wheeled into the cardiac surgery suite, I carried not only the hope for successful medical outcome, but also the knowledge that Marcus's systematic betrayal would encounter systematic preparation that exceeded his capability to anticipate or counter. The man who believed he was stealing the life savings of a vulnerable woman recovering from cardiac surgery was about to discover that his victim possessed resources and capabilities that would transform his calculated theft into his complete destruction. The foundation of trust that Marcus had systematically undermined through months of careful preparation was about to be replaced by the foundation of justice that emerges when authentic character confronts calculated deception with superior preparation and comprehensive strategic thinking. His betrayal would become the catalyst for transformation that would demonstrate the ultimate superiority of integrity over manipulation and systematic justice over opportunistic theft. The recovery from cardiac surgery provided the first genuine solitude I had experienced in years, creating space for reflection and observation that would reveal patterns of deception I had been too busy and trusting to recognize during the intensity of daily life. The cardiac intensive care unit environment, with its constant monitoring and restricted visitation, offered an unexpected sanctuary where I could process not only my medical recovery, but also the disturbing inconsistencies in Marcus's behavior that had emerged during the pre-surgical period. Dr. Morrison had warned me that the recovery process would involve significant physical limitations and emotional adjustments as my cardiovascular system adapted to the surgical repairs and my overall health gradually returned to normal functionality. What he could not have anticipated was that the enforced rest and reflection would provide the mental clarity necessary for recognizing that my marriage had been systematically compromised by calculated deception that extended far beyond simple marital difficulties or communication failures. The first concrete evidence of Marcus's betrayal emerged through an unexpected source during my third day of post-surgical recovery. Eleanor Thorne, my longtime business manager, and one of the few people I trusted completely with sensitive information about Blackwood Restoration Company operations, arrived for what I assumed would be a routine update about project status and client communications during my medical absence. Eleanor possessed the rare combination of operational expertise and personal integrity that had made her indispensable to my business success over the past 7 years. Her background in both construction management and financial administration provided the analytical capabilities necessary for managing complex restoration projects while maintaining the detailed documentation and quality control standards that preserved my firm's reputation for excellence. More importantly, her unwavering honesty and loyalty had earned my complete trust during numerous challenging situations that required discretion and reliable judgment. "Victoria, I need to discuss something troubling that occurred yesterday while you were still in surgery," Eleanor began, her expression combining concern with the careful professionalism she maintained during difficult conversations. Marcus contacted me requesting immediate access to the company's primary operating accounts and authorization to execute what he described as urgent financial transactions necessary for protecting our business interests during your recovery period. The request itself seemed reasonable given the circumstances of my medical emergency and the need for continued business operations during my absence from active management responsibilities. However, Eleanor's extensive experience with our established protocols and authorization procedures had immediately identified irregularities in Marcus's approach that suggested motivations beyond legitimate business necessity. The specific accounts he requested access to include funds that are never used for routine operational expenses, Eleanor continued, her voice carrying the measured tone she employed when presenting complex information that required careful consideration. These are the reserve accounts containing proceeds from completed projects and accumulated business profits that represent years of successful operations and strategic financial planning. Eleanor explained that Marcus had presented documentation, claiming to authorize comprehensive access to business assets under the power of attorney arrangements I had signed during the pre-surgical preparation period. However, her careful review of the actual authorization language revealed that the documents provided authority for routine business operations and emergency expenses rather than the broad asset access and liquidation capabilities Marcus was attempting to claim. I informed Marcus that accessing these accounts would require additional authorization directly from you, regardless of the power of attorney documentation, Eleanor reported. His reaction was immediate anger and insistence that any delays in implementing his financial transactions could result in serious complications for both the business and your personal financial security during the recovery period. The intensity of Marcus's response to Eleanor's professional prudence represented the first clear indication that his post-surgical financial activities involved objectives beyond supporting my recovery and maintaining business operations. His anger at encountering standard verification procedures suggested urgency and motivation that extended beyond legitimate concern for my welfare and business continuity. Eleanor's commitment to protecting my interests despite pressure from my own husband demonstrated the loyalty and professional integrity that had made her such a valuable partner in building Blackwood Restoration Company. Her willingness to resist Marcus's demands and insist on proper authorization procedures, despite his claims of urgent necessity, revealed both her understanding of appropriate business practices and her intuitive recognition that something fundamental was wrong with his requests. I told Marcus that I would discuss the account access requests with you as soon as your medical condition permitted business conversations, Eleanor concluded. He insisted that bothering you with financial details during your recovery would be inappropriate and potentially harmful to your healing process. However, I believed that protecting your business assets required your direct involvement regardless of the timing complications. Eleanor's decision to prioritize my long-term financial security over short-term convenience represented exactly the kind of principled decision-making that had earned my trust and respect throughout our professional relationship. Her willingness to risk conflict with Marcus rather than compromise established security procedures demonstrated the integrity that would prove essential for navigating the systematic betrayal I was beginning to recognize. The conversation with Eleanor catalyzed a fundamental shift in my perspective on Marcus's recent behavior and his systematic preparation for managing our financial affairs during my medical emergency. What I had interpreted as thoughtful support and partnership now appeared potentially calculated positioning for accessing and controlling assets that represented decades of professional achievement and financial planning. I requested that Eleanor provide comprehensive documentation of all business account activity from the previous week, including any attempted transactions or access requests that had been initiated since my hospitalization. Her commitment to maintaining detailed records of all business activities meant that a complete audit trail would be available for identifying any unauthorized or suspicious financial activities. The business account analysis revealed patterns that were both shocking and enlightening in their implications for understanding Marcus's true intentions regarding my financial security during the recovery period. While I had been unconscious during surgery, Marcus had attempted to initiate transfers from multiple business accounts totaling nearly $2 million in accumulated profits and project completion payments that represented the financial foundation of Blackwood Restoration Company. The attempted transfers were structured to appear legitimate by referencing emergency business expenses and urgent vendor payments that would supposedly protect ongoing projects from disruption during my medical absence. However, Eleanor's detailed knowledge of our actual operational requirements and vendor payment schedules immediately identified these transactions as fraudulent attempts to liquidate business assets for purposes unrelated to legitimate company operations. The vendor payments he attempted to authorize were to companies that have never worked on our projects, Eleanor explained while reviewing the transaction documentation. The amounts he requested far exceed any legitimate emergency expenses that might arise during a temporary management transition, and the timing of these requests suggests systematic preparation rather than responses to unexpected circumstances. The systematic nature of Marcus's attempted financial manipulation became clear as Eleanor detailed the specific account access patterns and transaction sequencing that revealed comprehensive preparation for liquidating both business and personal assets during my period of medical incapacity. The sophistication of his approach suggested extensive advance planning rather than opportunistic exploitation of emergency circumstances. More disturbing was Eleanor's discovery that Marcus had been researching business account structures and authorization procedures for several weeks before my medical emergency, requesting information about operational protocols and emergency management procedures under the guise of ensuring adequate preparation for potential business disruptions. His inquiries had seemed thoughtful and responsible at the time, but now appeared to represent systematic intelligence gathering in preparation for financial theft. I provided him with detailed information about our security procedures because I thought he was trying to be a supportive partner, Eleanor admitted, with obvious regret about unwittingly facilitating Marcus's preparation for betraying my trust. He asked specific questions about account access requirements, authorization protocols, and emergency override procedures that I assumed reflected legitimate concern about business continuity planning. Eleanor's retrospective analysis of Marcus's information gathering revealed the sophisticated nature of his preparation for systematic financial manipulation. He had spent weeks studying our business operations and security procedures while maintaining the appearance of supportive partnership and genuine concern for protecting my professional interests during potential emergencies. The discovery that Marcus had been systematically planning to exploit my medical emergency for financial gain fundamentally altered my understanding of our marriage and his commitment to our shared future. What I had believed was a partnership based on mutual support and aligned objectives was actually a carefully constructed deception designed to provide him with access to assets he intended to steal when circumstances provided adequate cover for his betrayal. However, the attempted business account liquidation represented only the beginning of Marcus's systematic financial assault during my medical incapacity. Eleanor's investigation revealed that he had also attempted to access personal investment accounts, initiate real estate transactions, and modify insurance beneficiary arrangements using the broad authority he claimed to possess under the pre-surgical power of attorney documentation. The scope of Marcus's attempted financial manipulation extended far beyond opportunistic theft to encompass a comprehensive strategy for transferring virtually all accumulated wealth from my control to his exclusive access. The systematic nature of his approach revealed months of preparation and planning that had been carefully concealed behind the facade of supportive marriage and collaborative financial management. Eleanor's commitment to protecting my interests, despite pressure and deception from Marcus, provided the first critical element in what would become a comprehensive strategy for exposing and defeating his systematic betrayal. Her professional integrity and detailed documentation of his attempted fraud created the foundation for understanding the true scope of his calculated deception while beginning the process of developing effective countermeasures. The realization that I had been married to someone capable of systematic financial predation during my most vulnerable moments created a profound shift in perspective that extended far beyond personal betrayal to encompass fundamental questions about trust, judgment, and the protective measures necessary for preserving the results of decades of professional achievement and careful financial planning. The medical recovery process that had initially seemed like a temporary interruption in my normal life activities was rapidly becoming the foundation for the most significant personal transformation I had ever experienced. The enforced reflection and limited external distractions of the hospital environment provided ideal conditions for developing the analytical clarity and strategic thinking that would be essential for addressing challenges far more complex than cardiac surgery recovery. Eleanor's support and professional expertise represented the beginning of the alliance that would prove essential for navigating the sophisticated deception and systematic fraud that Marcus had been preparing to implement during my period of maximum vulnerability. Her willingness to prioritize my long-term interests over short-term harmony demonstrated the kind of principled partnership that would be crucial for developing effective responses to calculated betrayal. The trust fund activation documentation that had arrived on the morning of my surgery suddenly acquired new significance as I recognized that Marcus's systematic preparation for financial theft would encounter resources and capabilities that he could not have anticipated or planned to counter. The timing of the trust activation protocols suggested either extraordinary coincidence or the kind of providential justice that emerges when authentic character confronts calculated deception. The private banking team managing the Blackwood Family Trust had included comprehensive security measures and legal protections specifically designed to defend against the kind of financial predation that Marcus was attempting to implement. The trust structure included automatic monitoring systems, verification requirements, and legal safeguards that would detect and prevent unauthorized access attempts while providing beneficiaries with immediate support for addressing systematic financial attacks. The contrast between Marcus's calculated preparation for exploiting my medical emergency and the Trust's systematic preparation for protecting family members during extraordinary challenges represented a perfect demonstration of how authentic, legacy and principled planning ultimately defeat opportunistic manipulation and theft. The resources and support systems my great-grandmother had established decades earlier were precisely designed to address the situation I now faced. The discovery of Marcus's attempted financial manipulation during my surgery recovery marked the beginning of a transformation process that would demonstrate how systematic betrayal could become the catalyst for developing capabilities and strategic thinking far beyond what normal circumstances would require or reveal. The man who believed he was destroying my financial security had actually initiated the process that would transform me into someone capable of systematic justice and comprehensive victory over calculated deception. Eleanor's continued investigation into Marcus's financial activities during my recovery period revealed additional layers of systematic manipulation that extended the scope of his betrayal far beyond the business account liquidation attempts. Her commitment to protecting my interests provided the foundation for developing comprehensive understanding of his systematic approach while beginning the process of building the alliance and capabilities necessary for achieving complete justice and protection against future attacks. The systematic nature of Marcus's financial manipulation became increasingly apparent as Eleanor's investigation revealed evidence of preparation and coordination that extended far beyond opportunistic exploitation of my medical emergency. The sophistication of his approach suggested access to professional expertise and strategic guidance that indicated collaboration with individuals possessing specialized knowledge of financial fraud and asset manipulation techniques. During my 5th day of cardiac recovery, Eleanor presented documentation that fundamentally altered my understanding of the challenge I faced. Her analysis of Marcus's attempted transactions revealed patterns of behavior and technical sophistication that exceeded what any individual could develop independently. suggesting coordination with professional networks specializing in systematic financial fraud against vulnerable individuals. The attempted business account liquidations had been structured using complex financial instruments and legal mechanisms that required extensive knowledge of banking regulations, asset protection, laws, and jurisdictional complications that could be exploited to obscure the source and destination of transferred funds. The level of technical sophistication indicated access to professional consultation or collaboration with individuals possessing specialized expertise in financial manipulation. Eleanor had discovered that Marcus had been receiving guidance from external sources during the months preceding my medical emergency, including consultation with individuals who specialized in what they euphemistically described as emergency financial management and crisis asset protection. These consultations had provided Marcus with detailed strategies for accessing and liquidating assets belonging to incapacitated individuals, while maintaining legal plausibility and minimizing risk of detection or accountability. The external consultation records revealed that Marcus had been part of a network of individuals who shared strategies and techniques for systematic financial exploitation of marriage partners during periods of vulnerability. This network operated through private online forums and exclusive consultation services that provided detailed guidance on legal manipulation, psychological pressure tactics, and technical methods for concealing unauthorized financial transactions. The discovery that Marcus's betrayal represented participation in organized networks dedicated to systematic financial predation fundamentally changed the scope of the challenge I faced. Rather than addressing individual marital fraud, I was confronting sophisticated criminal enterprise that had developed professional-level capabilities for identifying, targeting, and exploiting vulnerable individuals through systematic manipulation of trust relationships. Eleanor's continued investigation revealed that the consultation services Marcus had accessed provided comprehensive support for implementing financial fraud against marriage partners, including legal document preparation, technical guidance for accessing protected accounts, and psychological manipulation strategies designed to prevent victims from recognizing or effectively responding to systematic theft. These services operated with professional sophistication that rivaled legitimate financial advisory firms, while specializing in criminal exploitation of intimate relationships. The network Marcus had joined included individuals from various professional backgrounds who contributed specialized expertise to collective efforts aimed at perfecting techniques for financial manipulation and asset theft. Members included lawyers who provided guidance on legal vulnerabilities, financial advisors who offered technical expertise on account access and fund transfers, and psychological consultants who specialized in manipulation tactics designed to maintain victim compliance during systematic exploitation. The scope of this criminal network extended far beyond individual cases to encompass systematic research and development of increasingly sophisticated approaches to financial predation. The network maintained detailed case studies of successful manipulation campaigns, analyzed failure patterns to improve future effectiveness, and provided ongoing support for members implementing fraud against their own victims. Eleanor discovered that Marcus had been contributing detailed information about my business operations, personal financial arrangements, and family background to network databases that were used for developing improved strategies for targeting and exploiting individuals with substantial assets and professional success. My personal information had been analyzed by multiple individuals who provided Marcus with customized guidance for exploiting specific vulnerabilities they identified in my circumstances and character. The realization that my personal and financial information had been systematically analyzed by criminal networks for the purpose of optimizing strategies for my exploitation created a profound sense of violation that extended far beyond Marcus's individual betrayal. The systematic nature of the assault on my privacy and security represented an attack on fundamental principles of trust and safety that are essential for maintaining intimate relationships and building successful professional partnerships. The technical sophistication of the criminal network became apparent as Eleanor detailed the specific methods Marcus had been taught for accessing protected accounts, manipulating legal documents, and concealing financial transactions in ways that would be difficult to detect through normal monitoring procedures. These techniques included exploitation of legal loopholes, manipulation of banking security protocols, and coordination with corrupt professionals who provided insider access to systems that were supposed to be protected against unauthorized intrusion. The network had developed comprehensive strategies for maintaining plausible deniability when implementing systematic financial theft, including documentation techniques that made criminal transactions appear legitimate, communication methods that concealed coordination between conspirators, and legal protection strategies that minimized risk of prosecution even when fraud was discovered and reported to authorities. Eleanor's analysis revealed that Marcus had received specific training in psychological manipulation techniques designed to prevent victims from recognizing systematic exploitation until the theft was completed and assets had been transferred beyond recovery. These techniques included gaslighting strategies that made victims question their own perceptions, isolation tactics that separated victims from potential sources of support and validation, and emotional manipulation approaches that exploited trust and affection to maintain compliance during the implementation of financial fraud. The systematic preparation Marcus had received for exploiting my medical emergency included detailed timing strategies, communication protocols for maintaining the appearance of supportive partnership while implementing theft, and contingency, planning for addressing potential complications or resistance from victims who discovered the manipulation before completion of asset transfers. The network provided Marcus with access to corrupt professionals who could facilitate various aspects of his systematic fraud, including lawyers who would prepare fraudulent documentation, financial advisors who would assist with unauthorized asset transfers, and medical consultants who would provide false assessments supporting claims about victim incapacity that justified emergency financial interventions. Eleanor discovered evidence that Marcus had been coordinating with these corrupt professionals for several weeks before my medical emergency, establishing relationships and procedures that would enable rapid implementation of financial theft when circumstances provided adequate cover for his systematic betrayal. The level of advanced preparation indicated that my cardiac surgery had been anticipated and planned for as an opportunity for implementing prearranged fraud strategies. The realization that Marcus had been systematically preparing to exploit any medical emergency I might experience fundamentally altered my understanding of our marriage and his long-term intentions regarding our shared future. Rather than genuine partnership and mutual support, our relationship had been calculated positioning for eventual financial exploitation, whenever circumstances provided adequate opportunity and justification. The criminal network Marcus had joined maintained detailed profiles of successful financial predation cases that served as models for members implementing their own fraud campaigns. These case studies included analysis of victim selection criteria, timing strategies for optimal effectiveness, and technical implementation approaches that maximized asset acquisition while minimizing risk of detection or legal consequences. Eleanor's investigation revealed that the network evaluated potential victims based on specific characteristics that indicated both substantial financial assets and psychological vulnerabilities that could be exploited through systematic manipulation. The criteria included professional success that generated significant income and accumulated wealth, trusting personalities that could be exploited through false partnership claims, and limited family support networks that reduced likelihood of external intervention during manipulation campaigns. The systematic analysis of my personal and professional characteristics had led the network to classify me as an optimal target for financial predation, with specific recommendations for exploitation strategies that took advantage of my professional focus, trusting nature, and limited family connections that might provide protection against systematic manipulation. The network had provided Marcus with detailed psychological profiles that analyzed my personality characteristics, professional motivations, and relationship patterns to identify specific vulnerabilities that could be exploited through targeted manipulation techniques. These profiles included recommendations for building trust and dependency, strategies for isolating me from potential sources of support, and approaches for maintaining my compliance during the implementation of systematic financial theft. Eleanor discovered that the network maintained extensive databases of victim information that were used for ongoing research and strategy development, aimed at improving the effectiveness of financial predation techniques. This information included detailed financial records, psychological assessments, and behavioral analysis that enabled network members to develop increasingly sophisticated approaches to exploitation and manipulation. The discovery that my personal information had been systematically collected, analyzed, and shared among criminal networks for the purpose of optimizing strategies for my financial exploitation created a profound understanding of the scope and sophistication of the challenge I faced. The systematic nature of the assault extended far beyond individual betrayal to encompass organized criminal enterprise with professional-level capabilities and extensive resources. However, the recognition of this systematic criminal network also revealed opportunities for developing comprehensive responses that could address not only my individual situation, but also the broader threat these networks represented to other potential victims. The systematic nature of their approach created patterns of behavior and evidence trails that could be analyzed and exploited by equally systematic defensive and prosecutorial strategies. The Blackwood Family Trust documentation included specific provisions for addressing exactly this type of systematic financial predation, with legal protections and security measures that had been designed decades earlier to defend against organized attempts to exploit family members during periods of vulnerability. The trust structure included automatic monitoring systems that would detect and respond to systematic financial attacks, while providing beneficiaries with immediate access to legal and investigative resources necessary for comprehensive protection. The private banking team managing the trust had extensive experience addressing systematic financial fraud and maintained relationships with law enforcement agencies, legal professionals, and investigative specialists who possessed the expertise and resources necessary for confronting organized criminal networks engaged in financial predation. Their capabilities extended far beyond simple asset protection to encompass comprehensive security and justice services designed to ensure complete victory over systematic financial attacks. The contrast between Marcus's criminal network and the protective resources available through the family trust represented a perfect demonstration of how authentic legacy planning and principled preparation ultimately defeat opportunistic manipulation and organized theft. The systematic preparation for protecting family members had anticipated and prepared for exactly the type of challenge Marcus and his criminal associates represented. The transition from understanding the scope of Marcus's criminal network to developing comprehensive countermeasures required building strategic alliances with individuals who possessed the specialized expertise and resources necessary for confronting organized financial predation. The systematic nature of the threat demanded equally systematic response capabilities that extended far beyond what Eleanor and I could accomplish through individual effort, regardless of our combined professional skills and personal determination. The first critical alliance emerged through the Blackwood Family Trust's private banking relationship with Morrison Sterling Private Wealth Management, an institution that had been protecting high-net-worth families from sophisticated financial threats for over a century. Catherine Sterling Morrison, the third-generation principal of the firm, possessed both the technical expertise and institutional resources necessary for addressing systematic financial predation, while maintaining the discretion and security essential for effective defensive operations. Catherine arrived at the medical center on my 7th day of recovery, carrying credentials and documentation that established her authority to act on behalf of the Blackwood Family Trust, while providing immediate access to resources that would fundamentally alter the strategic balance between Marcus's criminal network and my defensive capabilities. Her presence represented the activation of protective systems that had been carefully designed and continuously refined to address exactly the type of systematic financial attack I was experiencing. The initial consultation with Catherine revealed the comprehensive scope of security and defensive capabilities available through the trust structure, while providing detailed assessment of the specific threats represented by Marcus's criminal network and their systematic approach to financial exploitation. Her analysis of the evidence Eleanor had compiled demonstrated professional-level expertise in financial crime investigation and defensive strategy development that exceeded the capabilities of traditional law enforcement agencies. Catherine explained that Morrison Sterling had developed specialized capabilities for addressing organized financial predation through decades of experience protecting wealthy families from increasingly sophisticated criminal networks. Their defensive approach encompassed legal action, financial security, investigative services, and strategic coordination with law enforcement agencies that possessed jurisdiction and expertise relevant to complex financial crimes. The firm maintained relationships with elite investigative professionals who specialized in infiltrating and dismantling criminal networks engaged in systematic financial fraud. These investigators possessed law enforcement backgrounds and technical capabilities that enabled them to gather evidence, identify network participants, and coordinate prosecutorial action that could result in comprehensive criminal justice outcomes rather than simple asset recovery. Catherine's assessment of Marcus's criminal network revealed that the organization he had joined was already under investigation by federal authorities for systematic financial crimes affecting victims across multiple states. The network's sophisticated approach and substantial financial impact had attracted attention from agencies possessing specialized capabilities for addressing organized financial crime, creating opportunities for coordination between my defensive efforts and ongoing law enforcement investigations. The strategic value of this coordination extended far beyond my individual situation to encompass comprehensive dismantling of the criminal network, while ensuring that Marcus and his associates faced appropriate criminal consequences for their systematic exploitation of vulnerable individuals. The federal investigation provided legal framework and prosecutorial resources that would transform my defensive efforts into collaborative justice initiatives with lasting impact. Catherine introduced me to Dr. Sarah Blackwood Chen, a forensic psychiatrist who specialized in analyzing psychological manipulation techniques used by criminal networks to exploit intimate relationships. Dr. Blackwood Chen possessed both the clinical expertise and legal credentials necessary for providing expert testimony about systematic manipulation while developing therapeutic strategies for addressing the psychological impact of organized betrayal and exploitation. Dr. Blackwood Chen's analysis of the manipulation techniques Marcus had been taught by his criminal network revealed sophisticated understanding of psychological vulnerabilities and exploitation strategies that represented professional-level expertise in emotional manipulation. Her assessment provided crucial insight into the systematic nature of the psychological assault I had experienced while establishing clinical documentation that would support both therapeutic recovery and legal prosecution of criminal manipulation. The psychological dimension of Marcus's systematic betrayal extended beyond simple deception to encompass deliberate manipulation of my emotional responses, decision-making processes, and relationship perceptions in ways designed to maximize my vulnerability to financial exploitation while preventing recognition of the systematic nature of his criminal activities. The techniques he had employed represented coordinated assault on my psychological autonomy and judgment capabilities. Dr. Blackwood Chen explained that criminal networks had developed increasingly sophisticated approaches to psychological manipulation that exploited specific vulnerabilities in trusting individuals while creating emotional dependency and cognitive confusion that prevented effective resistance to systematic exploitation. These techniques represented weaponization of intimate relationship dynamics for criminal purposes that created profound psychological injury alongside financial harm. The therapeutic approach Dr. Blackwood Chen recommended focused on rebuilding psychological autonomy and critical thinking capabilities while addressing the emotional trauma created by systematic betrayal and manipulation. Her treatment framework emphasized developing resilience and analytical skills that would provide permanent protection against future manipulation attempts, while supporting complete recovery from the psychological assault I had experienced. The therapeutic process also included development of testimony capabilities that would enable me to effectively communicate the psychological impact of systematic manipulation during legal proceedings while maintaining emotional stability and professional credibility necessary for successful prosecution of criminal manipulation charges. This preparation represented an essential element of comprehensive justice strategy that addressed both legal and psychological dimensions of systematic financial predation. Catherine coordinated introduction to Detective Lieutenant Maria Santos, a specialist in financial crimes investigation who had been tracking Marcus's criminal network as part of a multi-jurisdictional task force addressing organized financial predation targeting high-net-worth individuals. Detective Santos possessed both investigative expertise and legal authority necessary for transforming evidence of criminal activity into prosecutorial action that could result in comprehensive criminal justice outcomes. Detective Santos explained that the task force had been gathering evidence about the criminal network for over 18 months, building comprehensive cases against network participants while documenting the systematic nature of their financial predation activities. The evidence Eleanor and I had compiled represented crucial missing elements that could complete prosecutorial cases against multiple network participants, including Marcus. The task force investigation had revealed that the criminal network operated with sophisticated organizational structure that included specialized roles for different aspects of systematic financial predation. The network included recruitment specialists who identified potential perpetrators with access to wealthy victims, technical consultants who provided expertise in financial manipulation and asset theft, legal advisors who offered guidance on avoiding prosecution, and coordination specialists who managed complex multi-victim operations. Marcus's participation in this network represented more than individual criminal activity to encompass collaboration in organized criminal enterprise that had systematically exploited dozens of victims while generating millions of dollars in illegal proceeds. The systematic nature of the network's operations provided legal framework for prosecuting participants under racketeering statutes that carried substantially more severe penalties than individual financial fraud charges. Detective Santos revealed that the network maintained detailed records of their criminal activities, including victim profiles, manipulation strategies, and financial outcomes that provided comprehensive evidence of systematic criminal enterprise. These records, combined with the evidence Eleanor and I had compiled, would support prosecutorial cases that could result in lengthy prison sentences and complete asset forfeiture for network participants. The coordination between my defensive efforts in the task force investigation created strategic advantages that benefited both my individual situation and the broader law enforcement objective of dismantling organized criminal networks engaged in systematic financial predation. My cooperation with the investigation would provide crucial evidence while ensuring that Marcus faced appropriate criminal consequences for his systematic betrayal and participation in organized criminal activity. Catherine arranged introduction to Benjamin Morrison, a litigation attorney who specialized in complex financial fraud cases and possessed both the technical expertise and courtroom experience necessary for pursuing comprehensive civil recovery, alongside criminal prosecution. Benjamin's approach emphasized parallel civil and criminal proceedings that maximized both justice outcomes and financial recovery, while ensuring that criminal defendants faced full consequences for systematic financial predation. Benjamin's analysis of the financial evidence revealed that Marcus's attempted theft represented only the initial phase of systematic asset stripping that would have continued throughout my recovery period and beyond. The criminal network had developed comprehensive strategies for gradually transferring victim assets over extended periods while maintaining plausible explanations and legal cover that prevented detection until the theft was substantially complete. The systematic nature of the planned asset stripping provided legal basis for pursuing enhanced damages under fraud statutes while seeking punitive awards that would exceed simple asset recovery to include compensation for the systematic nature of the criminal conspiracy and the psychological harm created by organized manipulation and betrayal. These enhanced remedies would ensure complete financial recovery while providing appropriate deterrent effect. Benjamin coordinated with Catherine and Detective Santos to develop integrated legal strategy that combined criminal prosecution, civil, recovery, and asset protection measures that would ensure comprehensive justice outcomes while preventing any future attempts at financial exploitation. This coordinated approach represented professional-level defensive capabilities that exceeded anything Marcus's criminal network had anticipated or prepared to counter. The alliance Eleanor and I had initiated through her protective response to Marcus's attempted business account liquidation had evolved into comprehensive professional coalition, possessing specialized expertise in financial crime investigation, psychological manipulation analysis, law enforcement coordination, and complex litigation management. This coalition represented systematic preparation for confronting organized criminal threats that exceeded the capabilities available to most individuals facing similar challenges. The resources available through the Blackwood Family Trust provided financial foundation for implementing comprehensive defensive and prosecutorial strategies without the budget constraints that typically limited victims' ability to pursue complete justice against sophisticated criminal networks. This financial capacity enabled sustained legal action and investigative efforts that could achieve full accountability and comprehensive deterrent effects. Catherine explained that the Trust's protective philosophy emphasized proactive defense and systematic justice that addressed both individual protection and broader community benefit through comprehensive criminal prosecution and civil recovery. This approach recognized that wealthy families possessed both the resources and responsibility to pursue justice outcomes that protected other potential victims while ensuring complete accountability for criminal exploitation. The strategic coordination between trust resources, law enforcement investigation, and specialized professional expertise created unprecedented opportunity for achieving complete victory over organized criminal network while establishing precedent for comprehensive defensive response to systematic financial predation. This coordinated approach represented transformation of individual victimization into collaborative justice initiative with lasting positive impact. The alliance-building process had demonstrated how systematic criminal threats required equally systematic defensive responses that combined specialized expertise, substantial resources, and strategic coordination between multiple professional disciplines. The coalition we had assembled possessed capabilities that would ensure not only my complete protection and recovery, but also comprehensive dismantling of the criminal network that had targeted me for systematic exploitation. The complexity of confronting an organized criminal network required developing capabilities that extended far beyond my existing expertise in architectural restoration and business management. The systematic nature of Marcus's criminal activities demanded equally systematic development of investigative skills, legal knowledge, and strategic thinking capabilities that would enable effective coordination with the professional alliance, while contributing meaningfully to comprehensive defensive and prosecutorial efforts. Catherine Sterling Morrison recognized that my transformation from victim to strategic participant in complex criminal justice proceedings required intensive skill development in areas completely outside my previous professional experience. She arranged for comprehensive training programs that would provide both theoretical knowledge and practical capabilities necessary for understanding and contributing to sophisticated financial crime investigation and prosecution efforts. The initial phase of skill development focused on financial forensics and investigation techniques that would enable me to analyze complex transaction patterns, identify evidence of systematic manipulation, and understand the technical methods criminal networks employed for concealing unauthorized asset transfers. This training represented fundamental expansion of analytical capabilities beyond architectural problem-solving to encompass systematic investigation of deliberate deception and organized fraud. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, a forensic accounting specialist, who consulted for both government agencies and private security firms, provided intensive training in financial analysis techniques specifically designed for identifying and documenting systematic financial crimes. Her instructional approach emphasized practical application of analytical frameworks that could reveal patterns of deliberate manipulation while building evidence packages suitable for both criminal prosecution and civil litigation. The forensic accounting training encompassed advanced spreadsheet analysis techniques that could process thousands of financial transactions to identify anomalous patterns, statistical analysis methods that could distinguish between random variations and systematic manipulation, and visualization techniques that could present complex financial evidence in formats immediately comprehensible to legal professionals and judicial audiences. Dr. Martinez explained that effective financial forensics required understanding both legitimate business practices and criminal manipulation techniques in order to distinguish between normal operational variations and deliberate fraud. This understanding demanded comprehensive knowledge of banking regulations, accounting standards, and legal requirements that governed legitimate financial transactions while recognizing deviations that indicated criminal activity. The training included hands-on analysis of actual criminal cases where financial forensics had been crucial for successful prosecution of organized financial fraud. These case studies provided practical experience applying analytical techniques while understanding how technical evidence contributed to broader prosecutorial strategies aimed at achieving comprehensive criminal justice outcomes. My architectural background provided unexpected advantages for mastering financial forensics techniques. The systematic approach required for analyzing complex building restoration projects translated effectively to examining financial transaction patterns, while the attention to detail necessary for maintaining historical accuracy proved valuable for identifying subtle anomalies in financial documentation that might indicate systematic manipulation. The second phase of skill development focused on legal research and analysis capabilities that would enable me to understand the statutory and regulatory frameworks governing financial crimes while contributing to legal strategy development through comprehensive case law research and precedent analysis. This legal education represented substantial expansion of knowledge beyond business law familiarity to encompass specialized criminal law and complex litigation procedures. Attorney Jennifer Chen, who specialized in white-collar criminal defense and possessed extensive experience with complex financial fraud prosecutions, provided intensive legal education tailored to my specific role in the criminal justice proceedings against Marcus's network. Her instructional approach emphasized practical understanding of legal procedures rather than theoretical knowledge, focusing on capabilities that would enable effective collaboration with legal professionals. The legal training encompassed understanding federal criminal statutes relevant to organized financial fraud, procedural requirements for criminal investigations and prosecutions, evidentiary standards necessary for successful criminal convictions, and coordination protocols between criminal proceedings and parallel civil litigation. This knowledge provided foundation for meaningful participation in legal strategy discussions, while understanding how different aspects of the case contributed to overall prosecutorial objectives. Jennifer explained that successful prosecution of organized criminal networks required victims who could serve as credible witnesses while maintaining emotional stability throughout lengthy legal proceedings. This dual requirement demanded both comprehensive understanding of legal procedures and personal resilience development that would enable effective testimony despite the psychological pressure associated with confronting systematic betrayal in public judicial settings. The legal education included specific preparation for providing expert testimony about the impact of systematic financial manipulation, while maintaining professional credibility and emotional composure necessary for effective communication with judicial audiences. This preparation represented a crucial element of prosecutorial strategy that required substantial personal development alongside technical legal knowledge. The third phase of skill development focused on strategic planning and coordination capabilities that would enable effective leadership of complex multidisciplinary efforts while maintaining clear objectives and accountability standards throughout extended criminal justice proceedings. This strategic development represented evolution from individual victim to collaborative leader capable of coordinating sophisticated defensive and prosecutorial initiatives. Colonel Patricia Blackwood Armstrong, a retired military strategist who specialized in complex operations coordination, provided intensive training in strategic planning methodologies specifically adapted for criminal justice applications. Her instructional approach emphasized systematic planning processes that could maintain strategic focus while adapting to evolving circumstances and unexpected complications that characterized complex legal proceedings. The strategic planning training encompassed objective definition techniques that established clear success criteria while maintaining flexibility for tactical adjustments, resource allocation methodologies that optimized available capabilities while maintaining operational security, timeline management approaches that coordinated multiple parallel activities while meeting critical deadlines, and communication protocols that maintained information security while ensuring effective coordination between alliance members. Colonel Blackwood Armstrong explained that successful strategic coordination required understanding both the capabilities and limitations of alliance members while developing contingency plans that could address potential complications or setbacks without compromising overall objectives. This strategic thinking represented substantial personal development that would provide lasting value beyond the immediate criminal justice proceedings. The strategic training included analysis of successful complex operations from both military and civilian contexts, providing practical examples of effective coordination techniques while identifying common failure patterns that could be avoided through careful planning and preparation. This comparative analysis provided frameworks for understanding how strategic principles applied across different operational environments while maintaining effectiveness despite varying circumstances and constraints. My business management experience provided valuable foundation for mastering strategic coordination techniques. The project management skills developed through architectural restoration work translated effectively to coordinating complex legal proceedings, while the client relationship management capabilities proved essential for maintaining effective communication with diverse professional alliance members. The fourth phase of skill development focused on psychological resilience and emotional regulation techniques that would enable sustained effectiveness despite the psychological pressure associated with confronting systematic betrayal while maintaining professional relationships and personal well-being throughout extended criminal justice proceedings. This psychological development represented an essential element of comprehensive preparation for complex adversarial situations. Dr. Michael Sterling, a clinical psychologist who specialized in trauma recovery and courtroom preparation, provided intensive training in psychological resilience techniques specifically designed for individuals participating in complex criminal prosecutions. His therapeutic approach emphasized building internal strength and emotional regulation capabilities, while maintaining authentic emotional responses and professional credibility necessary for effective legal testimony. The psychological training encompassed stress management techniques that could maintain cognitive clarity during high-pressure situations, emotional regulation methods that could process feelings of betrayal and anger while maintaining strategic focus, communication skills that could convey complex emotional experiences while maintaining professional credibility, and resilience-building approaches that could sustain motivation and effectiveness throughout lengthy legal proceedings. Dr. Sterling explained that successful participation in complex criminal prosecutions required individuals who could balance authentic emotional responses with strategic thinking and professional behavior. This balance demanded substantial psychological development that addressed both trauma recovery and performance enhancement while maintaining personal integrity and emotional authenticity. The psychological training included specific preparation for maintaining emotional stability during direct examination and cross-examination procedures that would attempt to discredit testimony through psychological pressure and emotional manipulation. This preparation represented a crucial element of prosecutorial strategy that required both technical knowledge and personal resilience development. The comprehensive skill development program also included specialized training in technology security and digital privacy protection that would prevent criminal networks from accessing information about defensive strategies while maintaining operational security throughout extended legal proceedings. This technical education represented an essential element of comprehensive protection against sophisticated criminal organizations. Marcus Chen, a cybersecurity specialist who consulted for government agencies and private security firms, provided intensive training in digital security techniques specifically designed for individuals facing threats from organized criminal networks. His instructional approach emphasized practical security measures that could be implemented without compromising normal business operations while providing comprehensive protection against sophisticated surveillance and intrusion attempts. The technology security training encompassed secure communication protocols that could maintain confidentiality during sensitive discussions, digital privacy protection techniques that could prevent unauthorized access to personal and professional information, data security measures that could protect evidence and strategic planning materials, and counter-surveillance methods that could detect and respond to criminal monitoring attempts. The integration of these diverse skill development programs represented transformation from architectural restoration specialist to comprehensive strategic coordinator, capable of leading complex criminal justice initiatives while maintaining professional effectiveness and personal resilience throughout adversarial proceedings. This development demonstrated how systematic challenges could catalyze personal growth that extended far beyond immediate circumstances to provide lasting capabilities and enhanced effectiveness. The skill development process also revealed how authentic professional excellence in any field provided foundation for mastering new capabilities when circumstances demanded expanded expertise. The analytical thinking, attention to detail, project coordination, and quality standards that had enabled success in architectural restoration proved directly applicable to financial forensics, legal analysis, strategic planning, and psychological resilience development. The comprehensive capabilities developed through intensive training programs provided both immediate tactical advantages for confronting Marcus's criminal network and lasting strategic enhancement that would support continued professional and personal development. This transformation represented optimal outcome of systematic challenge response that produced growth extending far beyond problem resolution to encompass fundamental expansion of potential and effectiveness. The systematic nature of Marcus's criminal network extended beyond financial manipulation to encompass sophisticated psychological warfare techniques designed to undermine victim confidence, distort perception of reality, and prevent effective resistance to systematic exploitation. Understanding these psychological attack methods required comprehensive analysis of manipulation strategies while developing defensive capabilities that could maintain cognitive clarity and emotional stability throughout extended adversarial proceedings. Dr. Sarah Blackwood Chen's detailed analysis of the psychological manipulation techniques employed by Marcus's criminal network revealed professional-level expertise in emotional exploitation that represented weaponization of intimate relationship dynamics for criminal purposes. The systematic nature of these psychological attacks indicated specialized training and coordination that extended the criminal conspiracy beyond simple financial fraud to encompass deliberate assault on victim mental health and cognitive autonomy. The psychological warfare campaign Marcus had been implementing throughout our marriage represented long-term strategic assault designed to create emotional dependency, undermine critical thinking capabilities, and establish behavioral patterns that would facilitate systematic financial exploitation when circumstances provided adequate opportunity. The sophistication of this approach indicated access to specialized consultation from individuals possessing advanced knowledge of psychological manipulation and behavioral control techniques. Dr. Blackwood Chen explained that criminal networks had developed increasingly sophisticated approaches to psychological manipulation that exploited specific vulnerabilities in successful individuals, while creating cognitive confusion and emotional instability that prevented recognition of systematic exploitation. These techniques represented evolution of traditional confidence game methods, enhanced through modern psychological research and clinical knowledge about human behavior modification. The initial phase of psychological analysis focused on identifying specific manipulation techniques Marcus had employed during our marriage, while documenting the systematic nature of his approach to emotional control and behavioral modification. This analysis required detailed reconstruction of interaction patterns, communication strategies, and behavioral changes that had occurred gradually over extended periods, while remaining largely invisible due to their subtle implementation and systematic progression. The reconstruction process revealed that Marcus had been implementing classic psychological manipulation techniques, including gaslighting strategies designed to make me question my own perceptions and memory, isolation tactics that gradually separated me from potential sources of external validation and support, emotional manipulation approaches that exploited my trust and affection to maintain compliance with his requests and suggestions, and dependency creation methods that made me increasingly reliant on his judgment and decision-making for important life choices. The gaslighting techniques Marcus had employed represented systematic assault on my ability to trust my own perceptions and cognitive processes. These methods included subtle contradictions of my memories about conversations and agreements, gradual introduction of false information about events and circumstances, persistent questioning of my judgment and decision-making capabilities, and systematic attribution of my concerns or objections to emotional instability or professional stress rather than legitimate assessment of problematic behavior. Dr. Blackwood Chen documented specific examples of gaslighting incidents that demonstrated the calculated nature of Marcus's approach to undermining my cognitive confidence. These incidents included deliberate misrepresentation of financial discussions where he claimed agreements that had never occurred, systematic denial of concerning behaviors that I had observed and questioned, false attribution of business problems to my management decisions when his interference had created the actual difficulties, and persistent characterization of my careful documentation practices as symptoms of anxiety rather than reasonable professional precautions. The isolation tactics Marcus had implemented represented systematic effort to separate me from relationships and activities that provided independent validation of my perceptions and judgment. These methods included subtle discouragement of professional networking that might expose his manipulation, gradual reduction of social activities that connected me with supportive friends and colleagues, systematic scheduling of personal activities that conflicted with my existing relationships and commitments, and persistent suggestions that external relationships were unnecessary complications that detracted from our marriage partnership. The documentation of isolation patterns revealed how Marcus had gradually constructed circumstances that made me increasingly dependent on him for social interaction, professional validation, and emotional support, while reducing access to relationships that might provide alternative perspectives on his behavior and our marriage dynamics. This isolation created vulnerability to his influence while preventing access to external resources that might recognize and respond to systematic manipulation. Dr. Blackwood Chen identified specific emotional manipulation techniques Marcus had employed to exploit my trust and affection while maintaining my compliance with his increasingly controlling behavior. These methods included strategic use of expressions of love and appreciation to reinforce desired behaviors, systematic withdrawal of emotional support when I questioned his decisions or expressed independent preferences, false vulnerability, displays that positioned him as needing protection rather than representing potential threat, and calculated timing of romantic gestures that coincided with implementation of problematic financial or personal decisions. The emotional manipulation analysis revealed how Marcus had systematically exploited my caring nature and commitment to our marriage, while creating psychological pressure that made resistance to his requests feel like betrayal of our relationship rather than reasonable self-protection. This emotional exploitation represented particularly insidious form of psychological warfare that weaponized intimate relationship dynamics for criminal purposes. The dependency creation methods Marcus had implemented represented systematic effort to make me reliant on his judgment and decision-making, while undermining my confidence in my own capabilities and professional expertise. These techniques included persistent offers to handle increasingly complex aspects of my business and personal affairs, systematic positioning of himself as more knowledgeable about financial and legal matters that affected our shared interests, gradual assumption of responsibilities that I had previously managed independently, and consistent characterization of his involvement as necessary protection against problems I could not handle effectively alone. Dr. Blackwood Chen documented how these dependency creation patterns had gradually transferred control of crucial life decisions from my independent judgment to Marcus's influence, while making this transfer appear natural and beneficial rather than systematic undermining of my autonomy and self-efficacy. This dependency created vulnerability to financial exploitation while preventing recognition of the systematic nature of his manipulation campaign. The psychological warfare analysis also revealed sophisticated timing strategies Marcus had employed to maximize the effectiveness of his manipulation techniques while minimizing risk of detection or resistance. These timing approaches included implementation of major manipulation initiatives during periods when I was experiencing professional stress or personal challenges, coordination of emotional manipulation with business demands that limited my available attention for analyzing relationship dynamics, systematic positioning of important decisions during times when my cognitive resources were depleted by other responsibilities, and strategic use of positive relationship experiences to reinforce compliance immediately following implementation of problematic behaviors. The timing analysis demonstrated how Marcus had systematically exploited natural variations in my emotional state and cognitive availability, while creating circumstances that made careful analysis of his behavior difficult or impossible. This strategic timing represented professional-level understanding of psychological vulnerability patterns that indicated specialized training in manipulation techniques. Dr. Blackwood Chen identified advanced psychological manipulation strategies that Marcus's criminal network had developed specifically for exploiting successful individuals with substantial financial assets. These strategies included professional mimicry techniques that made criminal behaviors appear consistent with legitimate business practices, success exploitation methods that used victim professional achievements to justify increasing levels of control and dependency, competence undermining approaches that gradually eroded victim confidence in their own expertise and judgment, and identity confusion techniques that made victims uncertain about their own values and priorities. The professional mimicry techniques represented particularly sophisticated psychological manipulation that exploited my respect for business expertise and professional competence. Marcus had systematically positioned his manipulation behaviors as expressions of professional knowledge and protective partnership, rather than criminal exploitation, making resistance to his influence appear unreasonable or professionally naive rather than appropriate self-protection. The success exploitation methods revealed how criminal networks specifically targeted successful individuals by using their achievements and capabilities as justification for systematic control and manipulation. Marcus had consistently argued that my professional success created responsibilities and vulnerabilities that required his protection and guidance, making his increasing involvement in my affairs appear necessary rather than exploitative. The competence undermining approaches demonstrated how systematic manipulation could gradually erode confidence in capabilities that had enabled substantial professional success. Marcus had persistently questioned my judgment about matters outside my area of expertise while gradually expanding the scope of areas where he claimed superior knowledge and decision-making authority. The identity confusion techniques represented assault on fundamental sense of self and personal values that made resistance to manipulation feel like betrayal of authentic identity rather than appropriate self-protection. Marcus had systematically redefined my priorities and values in ways that supported his objectives, while making these changes appear natural evolution rather than external manipulation. The psychological warfare recognition process also included analysis of defensive strategies and recovery techniques that could restore cognitive autonomy and emotional stability, while building immunity to future manipulation attempts. Dr. Blackwood Chen developed comprehensive therapeutic approaches that addressed both immediate trauma recovery and long-term psychological protection against systematic manipulation. The defensive strategy development encompassed reality testing techniques that could distinguish between authentic perceptions and manipulation-induced distortions, emotional regulation methods that could maintain cognitive clarity despite psychological pressure and adversarial circumstances, independence rebuilding approaches that could restore confidence in personal judgment and decision-making capabilities, and relationship evaluation frameworks that could identify and respond to manipulation attempts in future interactions. The reality testing techniques provided systematic methods for verifying perceptions and memories while building confidence in cognitive processes that had been systematically undermined through gaslighting and other manipulation strategies. These techniques included documentation practices that created objective records of important interactions and agreements, external validation, seeking that confirmed perceptions through independent sources, logical analysis methods that evaluated the consistency and reasonableness of information and explanations, and timeline reconstruction approaches that identified patterns of manipulation and behavioral change over extended periods. The emotional regulation methods focused on maintaining psychological stability and cognitive effectiveness, despite ongoing exposure to manipulation attempts and adversarial legal proceedings. These techniques included stress management approaches that could maintain clear thinking during high-pressure situations, anger processing methods that could transform feelings of betrayal into strategic motivation for justice, anxiety reduction techniques that could prevent emotional overwhelm from compromising decision-making effectiveness, and resilience-building practices that could sustain motivation and determination throughout extended criminal justice proceedings. The independence rebuilding approaches addressed systematic restoration of confidence in personal capabilities and judgment while developing immunity to future dependency creation attempts. These methods included competence validation exercises that reinforced professional expertise and personal achievements, decision-making practice that gradually expanded autonomous choices and responsibilities, support network development that provided external validation and independent perspectives, and identity reinforcement activities that strengthened core values and personal priorities resistant to external manipulation. The relationship evaluation frameworks provided systematic approaches for identifying and responding to manipulation attempts in both personal and professional contexts, while maintaining openness to legitimate relationships and collaboration opportunities. These frameworks included behavioral pattern analysis that could distinguish between supportive partnership and systematic manipulation, motivation assessment techniques that could evaluate the authenticity of relationship claims and expressions of concern, boundary establishment methods that could maintain appropriate limits while preserving beneficial interactions, and early warning systems that could detect manipulation attempts before they achieved significant psychological impact. The integration of specialized expertise from multiple professional domains created collaborative intelligence capabilities that exceeded the sum of individual contributions while generating strategic advantages impossible through conventional approaches to addressing organized criminal activity. The systematic coordination of forensic accounting, legal analysis, psychological assessment, strategic planning, and law enforcement investigation produced comprehensive understanding of Marcus's criminal network while developing response strategies that addressed every dimension of their systematic exploitation operations. Catherine Sterling Morrison established secure communication protocols that enabled real-time information sharing between alliance members while maintaining operational security necessary for protecting sensitive investigative activities and strategic planning discussions. These communication systems provided foundation for collaborative analysis that could process complex information from multiple sources while maintaining confidentiality essential for successful prosecution of organized criminal enterprises. The secure communication infrastructure included encrypted messaging systems that prevented criminal network surveillance of defensive planning activities, secure file sharing platforms that enabled collaborative analysis of evidence and strategic documents, protected video conferencing capabilities that supported complex coordination discussions without geographical limitations, and secure document management systems that maintained comprehensive records while preventing unauthorized access to sensitive information. Catherine explained that effective coordination of complex criminal justice initiatives required communication security that exceeded standard business practices due to the sophisticated surveillance capabilities criminal networks employed for monitoring victim responses and defensive activities. The communication protocols we established provided protection against electronic surveillance, social engineering attempts, and infiltration strategies that criminal organizations used for gathering intelligence about law enforcement and victim defensive efforts. The collaborative intelligence process began with systematic integration of evidence and analysis from each alliance member's specialized domain, while identifying patterns and connections that were invisible when examining information in isolation. This integration revealed how Marcus's financial manipulation, psychological warfare, and criminal network coordination represented coordinated assault that required equally coordinated defensive response strategies. Detective Lieutenant Maria Santos contributed comprehensive intelligence about criminal network operations, organizational structure, and coordination methods that Federal Task Force investigation had revealed through surveillance, financial analysis, and informant cooperation. This intelligence provided strategic context for understanding Marcus's individual activities, while revealing how his participation in organized criminal enterprise created vulnerabilities that could be exploited. Through coordinated law enforcement action, the federal investigation had identified network leadership structure that included strategic coordination specialists who provided overall direction for systematic financial predation operations, technical consultants who developed increasingly sophisticated approaches to asset manipulation and theft, recruitment specialists who identified and cultivated potential perpetrators with access to wealthy victims, and operational security specialists who protected network activities from law enforcement detection and victim defensive responses. Detective Santos explained that Marcus's criminal network operated with organizational sophistication that rivaled legitimate business enterprises while specializing in systematic exploitation of intimate relationships for financial gain. The same network maintained detailed operational procedures, quality control standards, performance metrics, and continuous improvement processes that enhanced effectiveness while minimizing risk of detection or prosecution. The network's operational security measures included sophisticated surveillance capabilities for monitoring victim activities and defensive responses, counterintelligence techniques for identifying and responding to law enforcement investigation efforts, legal protection strategies that minimized criminal liability while maximizing asset acquisition, and contingency planning that addressed potential complications including victim resistance and prosecutorial action. Dr. Sarah Blackwood-Chen integrated psychological analysis of manipulation techniques with broader understanding of network operations while revealing how systematic psychological warfare supported financial exploitation objectives through comprehensive assault on victim cognitive autonomy and emotional stability. Her analysis demonstrated how individual manipulation tactics contributed to network-wide strategies for controlling and exploiting multiple victims simultaneously. The psychological warfare coordination included standardized manipulation protocols that network members employed across different victim relationships, performance evaluation systems that assessed manipulation effectiveness while identifying improvement opportunities, training programs that enhanced member capabilities in psychological exploitation and emotional control, and consultation services that provided specialized guidance for addressing victim resistance or defensive responses. Dr. Blackwood-Chen's analysis revealed that criminal networks had developed systematic approaches to psychological manipulation that exploited research findings about human behavior modification, cognitive vulnerability patterns, and emotional regulation processes. These approaches represented weaponization of legitimate psychological knowledge for criminal purposes that created profound harm while enabling systematic financial exploitation. Benjamin Morrison contributed legal analysis that integrated criminal prosecution strategies with civil recovery objectives while ensuring that all alliance activities supported rather than compromised law enforcement investigation and prosecutorial action. His legal coordination ensured that defensive strategies enhanced criminal justice outcomes while protecting my rights and interests throughout complex adversarial proceedings. The legal integration process included coordination between federal, criminal prosecution, and state civil litigation to maximize both criminal justice outcomes and financial recovery, strategic timing of legal actions to support, rather than interfere with law enforcement investigation priorities, evidence-sharing protocols that enhanced prosecutorial cases, while protecting sensitive information necessary for ongoing defensive activities, and witness preparation coordination that ensured consistent and effective testimony across multiple legal proceedings. Benjamin explained that successful prosecution of organized criminal networks required coordination between multiple legal jurisdictions and procedural frameworks, while maintaining focus on comprehensive justice outcomes that addressed both individual victim protection and broader deterrent effects. This coordination demanded sophisticated understanding of jurisdictional authorities, procedural requirements, and strategic timing considerations that could optimize outcomes across multiple legal proceedings. The collaborative intelligence process revealed strategic vulnerabilities in criminal network operations that could be exploited through coordinated defensive and prosecutorial action. These vulnerabilities included communication patterns that could be monitored and analyzed for intelligence gathering, financial procedures that created evidence trails suitable for forensic analysis and asset recovery, operational security weaknesses that provided opportunities for law enforcement infiltration and evidence gathering, and psychological manipulation techniques that could be documented and used for both criminal prosecution and civil litigation. The network vulnerability analysis demonstrated how systematic criminal organizations created systematic weaknesses through their own operational requirements and coordination necessities. The need for communication between network members created opportunities for surveillance and intelligence gathering, while standardized procedures created predictable patterns that could be anticipated and countered through strategic defensive planning. Eleanor contributed operational intelligence about business practices and financial management procedures that revealed how criminal networks exploited legitimate business operations for systematic asset manipulation and theft. Her analysis demonstrated how Marcus had positioned himself to exploit my business operations while using apparently legitimate transactions to conceal systematic financial predation. The business operation analysis revealed how criminal networks infiltrated and exploited successful enterprises through manipulation of business partners, corruption of operational procedures, and systematic diversion of business assets for criminal purposes. These exploitation methods included gradual assumption of financial management responsibilities that provided access to business assets, introduction of fraudulent business relationships that facilitated asset transfers, manipulation of business, decision-making processes that supported criminal objectives, and systematic documentation falsification that concealed unauthorized transactions. Eleanor's contribution included development of business security protocols that could prevent future infiltration attempts while maintaining operational effectiveness and growth potential. These security measures encompassed financial oversight, procedures that prevented unauthorized access to business assets, vendor verification processes that identified and prevented fraudulent business relationships, decision-making protocols that maintained appropriate oversight while supporting efficient operations, and documentation standards that created comprehensive audit trails while preventing falsification attempts. The collaborative intelligence integration produced comprehensive understanding of criminal network operations, while identifying specific intervention points where coordinated action could achieve maximum disruption of criminal activities and optimal protection of potential victims. These intervention opportunities included financial choke points where asset recovery actions could prevent further theft, while providing evidence for criminal prosecution, communication vulnerabilities where surveillance could gather intelligence, about network plans and coordination, operational dependencies where disruption could compromise network effectiveness, and legal vulnerabilities where prosecutorial action could achieve comprehensive criminal justice outcomes. The strategic coordination process also revealed how alliance member capabilities could be multiplied through systematic collaboration that leveraged specialized expertise while avoiding duplication of effort or conflicting objectives. This capability, multiplication, included forensic analysis that combined financial and psychological evidence for comprehensive understanding of criminal activities, legal strategy that integrated criminal prosecution with civil recovery for optimal outcomes, investigative coordination that enhanced law enforcement capabilities while protecting operational security, and strategic planning that addressed both immediate protection needs and long-term deterrent objectives. Catherine coordinated development of comprehensive strategic response framework that integrated all alliance member capabilities while maintaining clear coordination protocols and accountability measures throughout extended criminal justice proceedings. This framework provided structure for sustained collaboration while ensuring that individual expertise contributed effectively to collective objectives. The strategic framework included objective definition that established clear success criteria for both individual protection and broader criminal justice outcomes, resource allocation that optimized alliance member capabilities while maintaining sustainable effort levels, timeline coordination that aligned multiple parallel activities, while meeting critical deadlines, communication protocols that maintained information security while ensuring effective coordination, performance monitoring that tracked progress while identifying adjustment opportunities, and contingency planning that addressed potential complications while maintaining strategic focus. The collaborative intelligence process demonstrated how systematic criminal threats required equally systematic defensive responses that combined specialized expertise, substantial resources, and strategic coordination between multiple professional disciplines. The alliance we had developed possessed capabilities that exceeded anything Marcus's criminal network had anticipated or prepared to counter, while providing model for comprehensive response to organized financial predation that could protect other potential victims and support broader criminal justice objectives. The network effect created through professional collaboration represented transformation of individual victimization into collaborative justice initiative with capabilities and impact extending far beyond personal protection to encompass systematic dismantling of criminal enterprise and establishment of enhanced protective measures for future potential victims. This collaborative approach demonstrated how authentic professional excellence and principled coordination could achieve comprehensive victory over sophisticated criminal organizations through superior preparation, strategic thinking, and sustained collaborative effort. The transformation from collaborative intelligence gathering to comprehensive evidence development required implementing rigorous investigative methodologies that would produce documentation capable of withstanding scrutiny from criminal defense attorneys, federal prosecutors, and judicial review. The systematic approach to evidence collection and analysis represented the foundation upon which all subsequent legal action would depend, demanding professional standards that exceeded typical civil litigation requirements due to the criminal prosecution objectives and the sophisticated opposition we expected from Marcus's criminal network. Dr. Rebecca Martinez established forensic accounting protocols that would create unshakable documentation of systematic financial manipulation while building comprehensive case files that addressed every aspect of Marcus's criminal activities. Her methodology encompassed both retroactive analysis of completed transactions and prospective monitoring of ongoing criminal activities that federal task force surveillance had identified within the broader network operations. The forensic accounting investigation began with comprehensive reconstruction of all financial activities involving my personal and business assets during the period of Marcus's systematic manipulation campaign. This reconstruction required analysis of thousands of individual transactions while identifying patterns that distinguished between legitimate business operations and criminal manipulation activities. The scope of this analysis extended beyond simple account monitoring to encompass sophisticated examination of transaction timing, authorization procedures, documentation standards, and beneficiary identification. Dr. Martinez explained that effective forensic accounting for organized criminal prosecutions required evidence standards that anticipated every potential defense strategy while providing documentation that could withstand expert witness challenges and procedural objections. The forensic analysis needed to demonstrate not only that unauthorized transactions had occurred, but also that these transactions represented systematic criminal enterprise rather than isolated incidents or misunderstandings about authorization and intent. The financial evidence development process included detailed analysis of Marcus's coordination with external criminal network members through examination of payment patterns, communication timing, and transaction sequencing that revealed coordination between my asset manipulation and broader network operations. This analysis demonstrated how Marcus's individual criminal activities contributed to systematic criminal enterprise, while providing evidence of conspiracy and racketeering charges that carried substantially enhanced penalties compared to individual financial fraud. The forensic accounting investigation revealed sophisticated money laundering operations that criminal network members employed for concealing the proceeds of systematic financial predation, while providing plausible explanations for substantial income increases that resulted from victim exploitation. These money laundering techniques included creation of fraudulent business entities that provided false documentation for criminal proceeds, coordination with corrupt financial institutions that facilitated unauthorized asset transfers, and systematic use of legal loopholes that complicated asset recovery and criminal prosecution efforts. Dr. Martinez documented how Marcus had been trained by network consultants in advanced financial manipulation techniques that exceeded conventional embezzlement or fraud methods through systematic exploitation of legal and regulatory weaknesses. These techniques included abuse of power of attorney authorizations that provided excessive authority over victim assets, manipulation of business partnership structures that enabled unauthorized access to operational funds, exploitation of emergency, financial procedures that bypassed normal security requirements, and coordination with corrupt professional service providers who facilitated systematic asset theft. The evidence development process also encompassed comprehensive analysis of the criminal network's operational structure and coordination mechanisms through examination of financial relationships between network members, payment patterns that revealed hierarchy and profit-sharing arrangements, and communication coordination that demonstrated systematic planning and execution of criminal activities across multiple victim relationships. Detective Lieutenant Maria Santos contributed law enforcement intelligence that enhanced forensic accounting analysis while providing criminal investigation context that strengthened evidence packages for prosecutorial review. Her contribution included detailed documentation of network surveillance activities, criminal coordination methods, and operational security measures that demonstrated the systematic and professional nature of the criminal enterprise. The law enforcement evidence development included comprehensive surveillance documentation of network member activities, communication intercepts that revealed planning discussions and coordination protocols, financial analysis that tracked criminal proceeds through complex laundering operations, and witness cooperation that provided insider perspective on network operations and criminal methodology. This evidence demonstrated how Marcus's individual activities contributed to broader criminal conspiracy, while providing foundation for racketeering charges that addressed the systematic nature of the criminal enterprise. Detective Santos explained that successful prosecution of organized criminal networks required evidence that demonstrated both individual criminal activities and systematic coordination between network members through shared objectives, coordinated planning, and mutual benefit from criminal proceeds. The evidence development needed to establish criminal enterprise through documentation of organizational structure, operational procedures, and profit distribution mechanisms that characterized systematic criminal organization. The criminal investigation Evidence also included documentation of network recruitment and training activities that demonstrated how criminal organizations systematically expanded operations while enhancing member capabilities in financial manipulation and victim exploitation. This evidence revealed how networks maintained operational effectiveness through continuous improvement processes, performance evaluation systems, and knowledge sharing that enhanced criminal capabilities across multiple victim relationships. Benjamin Morrison coordinated legal evidence development that integrated forensic accounting and criminal investigation findings while ensuring that evidence packages met procedural requirements for both criminal prosecution and civil litigation. His legal analysis focused on establishing clear causal relationships between criminal activities and documented harm, while anticipating defense strategies that might attempt to minimize criminal liability or challenge evidence authenticity. The legal evidence development process included comprehensive documentation of criminal intent through analysis of planning activities, training participation, and coordination with known criminal network members. This documentation demonstrated that Marcus's activities represented deliberate criminal enterprise, rather than misunderstandings about authorization or innocent business activities that produced unintended consequences. Benjamin's legal analysis also addressed potential jurisdictional complications and procedural challenges that defense attorneys might employ for delaying or compromising criminal prosecution efforts. The legal evidence development anticipated these challenges through comprehensive documentation that satisfied multiple jurisdictional requirements while providing redundant proof sources that prevented single point-of-failure vulnerabilities in prosecutorial cases. The legal evidence packages included expert witness preparation that would provide authoritative testimony about financial manipulation techniques, psychological exploitation methods, and criminal network operations. This expert testimony would help judicial audiences understand the sophisticated nature of systematic criminal activities while countering defense arguments that attempted to characterize criminal behavior as conventional business disputes or marital disagreements. Dr. Sarah Blackwood-Chen contributed psychological evidence that documented the systematic nature of emotional manipulation and behavioral control techniques, while establishing clinical assessment of psychological harm created by criminal exploitation activities. Her evidence development focused on demonstrating how psychological manipulation supported financial exploitation while creating substantial emotional trauma that extended criminal impact beyond simple financial harm. The psychological evidence development included comprehensive analysis of manipulation techniques employed by Marcus throughout our marriage relationship, documentation of systematic progression from subtle influence to comprehensive control, clinical assessment of psychological harm created by systematic betrayal and exploitation, and expert evaluation of criminal network training in psychological manipulation methods. This evidence demonstrated how criminal organizations systematically weaponized intimate relationship dynamics for financial exploitation purposes. Dr. Blackwood-Chen's evidence packages also included analysis of victim selection, criteria and exploitation strategies that criminal networks employed for identifying and targeting individuals with substantial assets and psychological vulnerabilities that could be exploited through systematic manipulation campaigns. This analysis demonstrated how networks operated with professional-level sophistication while causing substantial psychological harm through deliberate manipulation of trust relationships. The psychological evidence development also addressed recovery and resilience factors that demonstrated both the severity of criminal impact and the effectiveness of systematic therapeutic intervention in addressing psychological trauma created by organized criminal exploitation. This evidence provided foundation for enhanced damages claims while demonstrating that appropriate intervention could achieve complete recovery from criminal psychological assault. Eleanor contributed business operation evidence that documented how criminal networks infiltrated and exploited legitimate business enterprises while using business relationships and operational procedures for concealing systematic financial manipulation. Her evidence development focused on demonstrating How business infiltration techniques enabled criminal access to substantial assets while maintaining appearance of legitimate business activities. The business evidence development included comprehensive analysis of operational changes that occurred during Marcus's increasing involvement in business activities, documentation of unauthorized modifications to business procedures and security, protocols, financial analysis that revealed systematic diversion of business assets for criminal purposes, and vendor relationship analysis that identified fraudulent business associations that facilitated criminal asset transfers. Eleanor's evidence packages also included documentation of business security vulnerabilities that criminal networks systematically exploited, while demonstrating how enhanced security measures could prevent future infiltration attempts. This evidence provided foundation for both criminal prosecution and civil recovery, while establishing improved business practices that would protect against similar exploitation attempts. The comprehensive evidence development process produced documentation packages that addressed every aspect of Marcus's criminal activities while demonstrating how individual crimes contributed to systematic criminal enterprise that warranted enhanced prosecution under racketeering statutes. The evidence quality and comprehensiveness exceeded standards typically required for criminal prosecution, while providing foundation for civil recovery that could achieve complete financial restoration and enhance damages for systematic criminal exploitation. The evidence development methodology also established protocols for ongoing monitoring and documentation that would support prosecution of additional criminal network members while protecting against retaliation or continued criminal activities. During extended legal proceedings, these protocols ensured that evidence quality would be maintained throughout complex litigation, while providing comprehensive protection against criminal network countermeasures. The systematic approach to evidence development demonstrated how professional investigative capabilities could produce comprehensive documentation that transformed individual victimization into systematic criminal justice initiative with potential for achieving complete accountability and deterrent effects that protected other potential victims from similar exploitation. The evidence packages provided foundation for criminal prosecution and civil recovery that would achieve comprehensive justice outcomes while establishing enhanced protective measures for future security. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.